Good morning. It is Wednesday, the 28th of January. I'm Maeve McMahon, and this is Europe Today, your daily dose of European news and analysis, live here on Euronews. Coming up, EU leaders are pumped with adrenaline and exhaustion after their successful stay in India this week. Brussels and New Delhi signed a historic deal that will cut tariffs on numerous products from steel to plastics. To enter into force, the deal must get the nod from EU member states, the European Parliament and the Indian Cabinet. But the EU will keep tariffs on beef and chicken as a gesture to European farming communities. Euronews' EU editor, Maria Tadeo, was one of the few European journalists on the ground in Delhi and sent us this report.
Good morning. We're still in Delhi, of course, where the European Union and India yesterday signed a trade deal. The Commission says this is a monster of a deal, the mother of all trade deals, which will see tariffs cut across the board for European companies. In fact, the Commission said and told us yesterday that European exports will see tariffs cut for pretty much 96% of all European products entering this market. Now, is it the mother of all trade deals? In a way, it depends on how you look at it and who you ask. The one thing to keep in mind, of course, is that before this trade deal was announced, India was a very protected market for European companies with very high tariffs, in some cases more than 150%. Obviously, that meant that doing business in this country of more than 1.4 billion people was very difficult. Now, with this deal, the European Union says they have opened up the market and will tap into huge potential. In terms of who's the winner, that's also important. We have to look at the breakdown, the machineries components, where tariffs used to be as high as 44%. They will now go down to zero. The same will apply for equipment. When you look at some of the European staples like pasta, olive oil, obviously a lot of this has to do with the brand of made in Europe. They will also go down to zero. And when you look at cars, and this is a very sensitive industry for the European economy and in particular for Germany, they will gradually go down to about 30% and possibly in some cases, some specific models to 10% with a quota. The Europeans insist the value and the goal of this deal was to open up the market, and they believe they have done so with this FTA. Now, on that note, yesterday I spoke with the president of the European Council, Antonio Costa, after the deal was signed, and he also told us beyond the trade and beyond business, this is a deal of high political importance at a time of very difficult and complex geopolitical relations. Let's take a look. President, thank you so much for joining us on this special day, in a way, for the European Union. You've said, finally, you've got this mother of all trade deals. But I wonder if the real value is sort of the optics around it, is to send this message that when there's tariffs all over the place, that's the value of a moment like this.
No, they have a great value from the economic point of view. But perhaps more important is the message that the two largest democracies in the world are sending to the international community. Is that it's important, it's essential to provide predictability, to engage on cooperation instead of confrontation, and that reliable partners can work for good in the world.
So you don't believe this is the end of the multilateral trade system? Many think after the terms or the tariffs before President Trump, it's the end.
It's a very important way to underpin the multilateral system. We are living not in the world of blocks, but in the multipolar world. And in this multipolar world, we need to do three things. First, underpin the multilateral system. Second, uphold the international law, and finally engage bilaterally with the different poles in the world. That's the reason because last week we signed the trade agreement with Mercosur. Now we signed the trade agreement with India, and we continue to work in new trade agreements and new partnerships with the different subjects, with different partners around the world.
And of course, President, you're a very experienced politician, and I know you're going to say you don't like to engage in hypotheticals, just reality. But
then if you know, you don't need to ask me.
But this is where I got to ask. Do you believe, do you get a sense really, in real terms, would we be here today in New Delhi with this agreement on the table, the Mercosur done also in the past month, if President Trump had not been elected and put forward this very aggressive tariff policy?
Well, we started these negotiations a lot of years ago. But of course, when you are living in the unpredictable world, you need to provide predictability to the business, to invest, to produce, to trade, and to give hope and security for the citizens.
And would you say, however, don't mistake politeness for weakness? Some who look at this very polite European Union, it means it's also a weak European Union. Would you say, don't make that because that would be a mistake?
Yes, I don't enter in this game of words. We focus on the reality. And our reality is very simple. We are one of the largest economies in the world, one of the largest democracies in the world, and we have a lot of friends around the world. Friends, partners, allies, and we work with everybody.
And President, I wonder if you could confirm to us, there is now talk that in the retreat that you have called for leaders to have a debate in February, so very soon, Mario Draghi will participate. Is that going to be the case? And is that your personal invitation to Mario Draghi?
As you remember, last year, we start the year in February organizing a retreat on defense. And I invited the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, and also the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer. And it was the pivotal moment to improve and focus on our own agenda on security and defense and strengthen our relationship with NATO and the UK on security and defense. This year, we need to do on competitiveness and on our single market what we have done last year on security and defense. That's why I invited Mario Draghi and Enrico Letta to be present in the European Council, to debate on us, to take stock of what we have already done, which their reports, and what we need to do to accelerate and to deliver, to boost competitiveness and to deep and strengthen our single market.
And that's my last question. What do you hope to achieve? Because you talk about the retreat that happened last year that kickstarted the sequence on defense. Do you worry, and is that the reason why you want Mario Draghi and Letta to be in the meeting, that this report is not being implemented fast enough? Are you concerned?
What I expect from the leaders is that they give a clear political guidance to the Commission, to the Council, as they have done last year on security and defense. And this year, on the single market and on competitiveness, we need to create a new momentum to give new impetus on this agenda. As you know, we have invested a lot on simplification, but we need to do much more to deliver and to boost effectively on competitiveness and in our single market. And if you want to underpin our effort on security and defense, we need to have a strong economic base.
Maria Tadeo, our news editor, EU news editor, speaking there exclusively to the European Council President Antonio Costa in New Delhi. And back in Brussels, European lawmakers have started examining the small print of that EU-India deal that they will be asked to ratify. Our Jakob Janis also read it thoroughly, so you don't have to. Here's his summary.
Do you have a spare pen? Yesterday, the EU signed a historic trade deal with India that Ursula von der Leyen calls
the mother of all deals.
Why, you ask? Because with Trump in the White House and the European relations with China being complicated, Brussels needs new friends, and it needs them fast. Right now, the EU is actually India's biggest trading partner, if you count it as a bloc, trading about 100 billion euros a year. And the goal is to double that by 2032. And that's a lot of euros. If you live in Mumbai, get ready for cheaper European cars, wines and machinery. And if you live in Europe, expect cheaper electronics, textiles and medicines. And India also needs green energy and waste management. That is exactly what European companies are good at. So expect to see more European tech in Indian water plants soon. But not everyone is invited to the party. Beef, chicken, sugar and rice stay protected. And the reason is simple. After the recent Mercosur negotiations, nobody wanted to risk a riot. You could say that food fights are officially cancelled. At full potential, this creates a market of 2 billion people. That is almost a quarter of the world's GDP. And Brussels calls it the most ambitious deal India has ever signed. And it seems the EU needs that win. Do you remember that EU-US trade deal von der Leyen and Trump struck at his Scottish golf course last summer? It is now facing further delays. MEPs just postponed the vote on it again. So while Washington waits, Delhi trades. A new reporter has got a Hindi lesson in 5 minutes, so namaste.
Jakob Janus. Now, moving on, the EU Commissioner for Defence has said that the EU answer to Elon Musk's Starlink could be up and running by 2029. Andrius Kubilius made the statement at the European Space Conference taking place this week here in Brussels. To hear what else is under discussion at the annual event, we can cross now over to Euronews' Sasha Vakalina, who's joined by Joseph Aschbacher. That's the Director General of the European Space Agency. Good morning, Sasha.
Good morning, Maeve. Yes, indeed, we are here with the Director General of the European Space Agency, Dr. Joseph Aschbacher. Thank you very much for being here. Now, you said that the United States still spending 6 times more than all European actors combined. When it comes to China, this is 50% more. How alarming is that for the European Union?
It is very alarming because on one side, and I really would like to say Europe has excellent capabilities. Our industry is among the best in the world. Our engineers, our scientists are really top class. So this is the good news. I would say the alarming news is that the US is spending so much more, but also other countries. And this is where we see a real risk that European companies may be pushed out of the market, that we are losing market share. And this is my job as Director General of the European Space Agency to ensure that we succeed, that we are stepping up, that we elevate the future of Europe through space.
How can we step up? How can we speed this up and also to challenge and to catch up with the dominance of SpaceX? Do we have our own European Elon Musk here in Europe?
We have many very gifted and very talented entrepreneurs. I've just met yesterday quite a couple of them. So there really are, I would call it, the little Elon Musks that we have in Europe. They have the ingredients, they have the capacity, they have the technology, they have the companies. But yes, what we have to do from the public sector, that's the European Space Agency, the European Commission, to make sure that we have a framework where we can support them. We can provide the funding, the guarantee that we are buying their services and their products, which we stimulate through our framework and technology developments. Yes, we can do it, but we have to step up.
Thank you very much. The Director General of the European Space Agency, Joseph Aschbacher. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sasha Vakalina there. And of course, to your guest, Joseph Aschbacher, if you are interested in the European Union's role in space and everything else that's being discussed there at that conference, do visit euronews.com or download our app. But that brings this edition of Europe Today to an end. Thank you so much for tuning in. We always love having your company. Always, you can reach out to us as well if you have any comments or points or stories that you would like us to cover. Our email address is europetoday@euronews.com. Thank you so much again for tuning in. See you soon here on Euronews.